Hey everybody, Jeffrey Way here. Welcome to a new edition of the Net.Touch Plus Screencast of the Week. Today we're going to take a break from CodeIgniter, but don't worry, we're going to come back to that in a few days. We're going to take a look at advanced CSS3 effects. So we're going to do some fun stuff. I bet a lot of the stuff you haven't even looked at yet because truthfully, it's not altogether practical yet to use, but having said that, it's still fun to take a look at what's possible. So that's what we're going to do today. Before we get right into it, do me a quick favor. I'd really appreciate it. We were lucky enough to be selected as a contestant in the .NET Magazine Awards, and we have been chosen as Blog of the Year and Vodcast of the Year for these video tutorials. So if you do find them helpful, would you mind just taking literally 15 to 30 seconds, go to thenetawards.com and vote for us on number 7, Vodcast of the Year and Blog of the Year. If you'd like, you can vote for the other selections, which I did, but if you don't have the time, you can simply take 10 seconds, click on this. I've already voted, but select NetTouch and click submit, and that's all you have to do. And it would really be I'd really appreciate it if you guys would consider doing that for us. We put a lot of energy into these, and truthfully, I'd love to win. But even if not, there's a lot of great contestants, so do take a look at thenetawards.com. Okay, so let's get right into it. We're going to look at a bunch of different kind of effects. We're going to look at reflections, masks, transitions, rotation, scaling, a lot of really neat stuff. So I'm going to go into my websites folder, and I've created an empty folder with just an images folder just for the example, and it just has our little birthday bundle snapshot. So I'm going to drag this into TextMate, and we will begin. We're just going to do a bunch of different little exercises. So I'm going to create a new file, and this first one we're going to do is going to be called, I don't know, simple color fade.html. Okay, what we're going to do here is just show how usually you can use jQuery or things like that to fade a color from maybe red to green or something like that. Here I'm going to show you how to do it with just CSS. So all we need to do here is add an anchor tag just for the example, and within the style, or this would be an external style sheet of course, let's just do a really quick styling. We'll make the color red just so you can notice it. And I'm going to increase the font size once again just so all of you guys can see the color. Okay, and here is the some of the CSS3 implementation. Now remember, these are Safari's implementation, and that's why they're prefaced with the WebKit. Now, a lot of these are planned to be in the final CSS3 spec, but Safari is one of the few, if only, browsers that have gone out of their way to really embrace some of these. So keep in mind that it's not 100% practical. These are going to work in Safari 4. You might even want to download one of the nightlies, but they're not going to work in Internet Explorer or Firefox. So you might think, well, what's the point? The point is to get a glimpse of what is possible and what you will be using in the coming months or years. So we're going to do WebKit, transition, and it's going to accept 3 options. The first one is what type of transition. We're going to do color. We're going to change the color. The next option is going to be how long will it take. Let's do it over the course of 1 second. And then the final one is how will the transition occur. We're just going to do linear here. Okay, that's not enough on its own, but let's go ahead and view this in the browser. So I'm going to go here, and I'm just going to drag it into Safari, because remember, these are going to work in Safari. And just to show you, I'm using version 4.0.3. Okay, so we have some link. That's all we'd expect. So let's come back and add. We've added our transition, but now we need to trigger that animation. So we're going to trigger it on the hover. And when the user hovers over it, we're just going to change the color to blue. So by default, it's red. When they hover over it, we're going to turn the color to blue, but we're also going to do a transition, and we're going to change that color over the course of 1 second. Refresh, and now when I hover over it, over the course of 1 second, it changes. And you know what? I'm just not sure if you'll be able to see that with this slower frame rate, so I'm going to turn it to 3 seconds so you can really see. Refresh the page, hover over it, over 3 seconds, it turns blue. Okay, that's pretty neat. So there's your very first one. Now we're going to look at a little slide where we can, similar to your first lesson in jQuery, how you make an element slide across the page. We're going to do that with CSS3. And what I'm also going to do, just for your reference, is show you how it degrades to other browsers. So if I view this in Firefox, it's simply instant. So it's really not that big a deal if you want to go ahead and add this. A lot of people do color fades. It's not a big deal because in other browsers, it's simply an instant fade. In Safari, it's kind of a nicer transition, which you'd probably want to do quicker than 3 seconds. Okay, so there goes that first one. I'm going to create another new file. The reason I'm doing this, I want to separate it into each file so that you can easily kind of copy and paste. So this one's going to be called Simple Slide. And let me go ahead and find my notes here. Okay, we're going to just slide a box across a page. So I'm going to create a new div. We'll give it an ID of box, and we'll just leave it blank in the middle. And let's give it some quick styling. Width 250. None of this is essential. It's just to set up something to work with. The background is going to be red. And we're going to set the position to relative. And the reason I'm doing this is because if we want to affect the top, left, right, or bottom values of an element, it's not going to work unless we position it relatively or absolutely. So we need to make sure we do that. Okay, and now for the CSS3 stuff, we can separate it into, as I did before, almost similar to where you can put maybe the margins. You know, you could do 10 pixels, 10 pixels, 10 pixels, 5 pixels, and that'll adjust the top, right, bottom, and left. You can do the same thing with the transitions, or you can do each one individually. So if you wanted to do it all together, we do WebKit, transition, and the same thing here. So we're going to do left, and this time let's do it over the course of 2 seconds, and once again linear. This is called Simple Slide. Let's change it. And if I hover over it, nothing happens. And that's because, once again, you need to remember, usually when you first get started, this can kind of confuse you. Well, why is it not working? Well, first, we haven't told it how much are we going to slide. And second, we haven't actually triggered the animation. So we're going to trigger it once again on the hover. And remember, we're applying hover to an element other than an anchor tag, which is only supported in modern browsers. We're going to do left, 100 pixels. Now, things worth noting. Notice this time with the transition, I'm actually calling a specific property. We're transitioning the left property only. So when I refresh the page and I hover over it, look at that. I go back and it goes right back. And this is occurring over the course of 2 seconds. And notice, you know, with jQuery, when you hover over it, the event will keep firing here. You don't have to worry about that. But once again, let's view it in Firefox to see how that would work. Hover over it, and it's just instant. So not too big of a deal, but Safari just makes it a little bit nicer. Okay, that's pretty much what I wanted to show you there. Let's create a new one. The next one we're going to look at is maybe more of a practical use of this slide feature. So we're going to call it Simple Slide Practical. Okay, and let's go. I'm going to create an unordered list, and we'll give it an ID of nav. And let's just create a few quick list items. Home. You know, we're just going to build a simple, basic navigation that you'll see on dozens of sites. And just fill this out really quickly. How many times have you done this? Okay, so we have our navigation. Now, basically what we want is when a user hovers over one of these navigation items, we're going to slowly slide it to the left. So let's go ahead and load this in the page. Simple Slide Practical. That's what you'd expect. Hover over it, of course, nothing happens. So let's go back to our page, and within our style tags, let's do just some quick styling. List style, none. That's going to get rid of the bullets. And next, let's just get rid of that blue color. So color is black. And you know what? I remember some of you guys said that you didn't like how I shift out like this, so I'm going to do it with the tab. And refresh, and now they're black. The next one we're going to do is nav lia, and we're going to set the position to relative once again because we're going to be we're going to be altering the left property. And once again, WebKit transition, and we're going to alter the left property. We're going to do it very quickly, so I'm going to do it over the course of about 1/3 of a second, and once again, linear. But remember, we need to trigger it and tell it how much we're going to move to the left. So nav a hover, and we're going to send it to the left 10 pixels. So now when I refresh the page, we get that standard sliding motion. Okay, nice little transition there. No jQuery involved, all CSS. But if we go to another browser and hover over it, it's instant. Once again, maybe not a big deal. Make up your own mind. And you know what? Let's just check Chrome and see how that behaves. Chrome, it does work because it's built on the same WebKit engine, so these will work in Safari Chrome. Great. So let's come back and let's see what's next on the list. We're going to do some more advanced things shortly. Now I want to show you, you can build a full gradient using just CSS. So new file, gradients. And let me pull up my sample that I'm going to work off of. And here all we're going to do is just, we're just going to add a gradient to the background. So I'm not even going to add anything to the page. And here we're going to do background. And we're going to, rather than doing background black or something like that, we're going to do WebKit gradient. WebKit dash, we were using WebKit dash transition, now it's WebKit dash gradient. And this is going to accept a bunch of properties. The first one is how will the, is it a radial gradient? Is it a linear gradient? We're going to do linear. The next one is going to be the values for the beginning of the gradient and the end of the gradient. Where are the coordinates going to go? So we're going to start by pushing it to the top left portion of the screen. So the first one is the left value. The second one is the top value. So 0 pixels from the left of the browser window, just to show you. 0 from the left of the browser window and 0 from the top of the browser window. So it'll start right there. And the next one is going to be where will it end? And here we're going to do it at the bottom right, which will be 100% from the left and 100% from the top, right down here. Okay. The next one is going to be the colors. Where is the color going to begin and where's the color going to end? So we're going to begin with, and I have D0, D0, D0. That's kind of a grayish white color. And it's going to go to, and we're just going to send it to a solid white. And that should be good. So this is called gradients.html. Oh, did I not put that in a style tag? No, I'm sorry. Could have sworn I did. Okay, sorry about that. And that's not working. I must have missed something. Let's take a look. We have our background, and it's a WebKit-gradient. It's a linear gradient, and it's going from 0, 0 to 100%, 100%. We're going to go from D0. I wonder if that's correct. I think so, and we're going to send it to FFF, FFF. That all seems right. Let's view that again. Give me just a moment. I'm going to pause, and I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. And, of course, it's just this one space I didn't realize I placed right here after 2. And if we come back, refresh the page, now we have this nice gray to white gradient. And, you know, I'm worried that you can't see it, so just to be sure, let's just do something vibrant. And now you can see the actual gradient occurring there. And, of course, additionally, we can add color stops if we want. So we do a comma, color stop, and it's going to accept 2 parameters. The first one is going to be where in the gradient will it occur. Let's do it halfway. And the next one will be what color is it. Once again, let's just do something really vibrant to see. And let's go back to Safari. Refresh the page, and now you can see we're going red to blue. Okay, so obviously you choose your colors much better, but this is just a really neat feature, so be sure to check that out. For now, I'm going to back up to a little more of a subtle gradient. If we can get there. Okay. And there we are. No images, just CSS, but thing you need to worry about, and this is why this one may not be as practical, is that if we load it in Firefox in another browser, we're not going to get anything. So you might want to think about that. Okay, so let's come back to TextMate, and let's move on to the next one, which is reflections. Now this one is really neat. You know the standard where you have an image, maybe in iTunes when you look at a band, and you'll see the band's album cover and then a little bit of a reflection underneath. And you can do that with Safari. So let's create a new one, and we're going to call it Reflections. And give me just a moment, and here we go. Let's add an image here. And I showed you we had a sample image called image.jpg. This will be included with the source code. Okay, and we want to add a reflection to this image. So there it is. We're going to add a little reflection underneath. Back to TextMate, and here, style. What we'll do is we're going to do WebKit box reflect. Okay, and what direction is it going to reflect? We're going to send it below. The next one is how much space do we want between our image and where the reflection begins. Let's just do it maybe 2 pixels, not much space at all. And then the next is we need a gradient that will actually add that reflection for us. Now we can add an image if we want, or we can add an actual gradient again. So let's do that. WebKit gradient, and we're going to do linear 0, 0, 0, 100%, top left to the left bottom. And it's going to go from transparent, because we're going to be dealing with transparency here. Let's do a color stop. Once again at 0.4. That'll be almost halfway through the gradient. And we're going to end to white. Believe that should be right. So let's come back to Safari, refresh the page, and of course it's not. You got to be really careful with some of these advanced stylings, because you have to make sure you get everything just right. So let's look. Going from transparent, and then we have a color stop at 0.4, transparent, and then we're going to white. And of course, we actually have to add this, so we are going to be doing it to our image. Sorry, I'm trying to move fast and I'm not really paying attention. Of course, we're going to apply this reflection to all images on the page, or if we want, we can add an ID, of course. Safari, refresh the page, and now look at that. Perfect gradient. Reflection, I'm sorry. And if we come back to Firefox, this is not going to work, of course. And I want to reiterate that you can't just freely use these. You need to decide when and where to use them. One thing worth noting, though, is you can use any of these with iPhone development. iPhone is using the Safari WebKit engine, and you can use all of these. So keep that in mind if you're doing iPhone-specific mobile development. Pretty neat. So come back, and just to show you how we can alter this reflection, we can make the color stop. Let's do it something like 0.8. And now you can see we make it much smaller. All right. So that is the point of the color stop, and if I were to make it like 0.2, it's going to go much further before it trickles off. All right. So come back. I think that one is one of the neatest ones that we can implement. Okay, I want to show you 4 more. So the next one I want to show you is sliding doors. So really quickly, I want to show you, just a few days ago, I posted this tutorial. It was a frequently asked question. I call it Ask JW, and it's where people ask questions, and I answer some of them. Let's go find it right here. And it's just basically they wanted to know how we have some themes where you hover over an image and it'll slide out of the way, and then it'll have more details about the image, maybe for a photography website or something like that. So if you view the demo, you hover over it and it just kind of does that. Okay. So the one of our users wanted to know how to do it with JavaScript, so I had a tutorial here that taught how to do it with jQuery. But I'm going to show you instead how we can do it with 100% CSS. So what I did was I downloaded the source code. Don't worry about any of the JavaScript. You're welcome to do the same, or it's going to be included with this source code that you download. So I'm going to close that out, and let's return to TextMate. And we're going to create a new file, and this is going to be called sliding doors. And let me pull up my sample that I can work off of. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to do this really quickly because it's not altogether necessary. We're building a wrapper for those teaser divs. Div class equals teaser. Don't worry about any of this really. It doesn't have anything to do with what we're going to be doing. Image source, we're just setting up the images, so image.jpg, photo. And if you want, you can even fast forward about 45 seconds. So we have our image, and then we just need a description, so just a description goes here. And then finally, maybe an anchor tag that links to it, read more. Okay, I'm going to copy this and duplicate it a bunch of times. And you know what, there should be better spacing there, but we're crunched for time, so I'm not even going to worry about that. And let's begin with our styling. So this is called sliding doors. If I come back to Safari, sliding doors, that's what you get. Okay, what you'd expect. Come back to TextMate, and let's do some quick ones. Teaser, that's the wrapping div for each of those items. Let's give it a width of 200 pixels and a height of 200 pixels. Incidentally, this is the exact width of that Envato image. I'm going to set the overflow to hidden, and that'll make sure that nothing overflows. And we're going to set the position to relative so we can adjust the top, left, right, and bottom values. And I'm also going to set the cursor to pointer to give the user some feedback that they can click on it. So come back, refresh the page, and now we've gotten rid of it, just what we want. So what we want is when we hover over this image, it's going to slide out of the way and show that text below. So come back to the teaser, and we're going to do teaser img. We need to make sure that we position it where we want to, and the way we can position the image is make sure it's absolutely positioned. That way it's taken out of the flow of the document, and we're going to put it at the top. And we don't actually have to do this, but it's probably a good practice too. I don't think you'll see any difference yet, but you will. Next, let's actually style the teaser wrap. And then once again, we're going to teaser div. You know what? I'm working off my sample. I don't even know why I did that. Let's add it here. And we're going to float each teaser div to the left. And we're going to set a margin around each one to about 1 ems. Safari, refresh the page, and that's what you get. Okay? So one thing we probably should do for best practice is teaser wrap, overflow. Hidden, this will force it to contain those child floats, and you won't see a difference, but it does make a difference. Okay, so now let's get to the fun CSS3 stuff. All right, the first thing we're going to do is the teaser image, and what we want is when you hover over the image, we're going to slide that image out of the way, and then when you hover off, we're going to bring it back. So this is actually pretty easy. You've already learned how to do this. We're going to do a WebKit transition to the image, and we're going to move it to the left over the course of 6 seconds, and we're just going to do a linear. But what will trigger that animation? What's going to trigger it is when we hover over the wrapping div. So teaser. When you hover over it, then take the image and move it to the left, negative 200 pixels, which is the exact width of the image. And let's come back, refresh the page, hover over it. There we go. And normally you'd have a heading here. I think that's what I did in the original example. One thing worth noting, this is why I added overflow hidden to each teaser div. Let's get rid of that, come back, and this is nothing to do with CSS3, but you can see now when I mouse over it, it just goes all the way to the left. We don't want that. We don't want it to go beyond the div's bounds, and that's why I set overflow to hidden. Okay, but pretty neat, huh? Kind of a cool little feature. And once again, like we do with jQuery, we don't have to worry about stopping the animation or anything like that. It'll do it for us. So let's check out what this will do for us in Firefox. Hover over it, and it's actually just doing it instantly, moving it to the left 200 pixels. So that might be okay for you too. You might be willing to take this to add a little bit extra to Safari. Okay, neat stuff. The next one I want to show you is masks. This is really neat. So let's add a new file. And you know in Photoshop, when you add a mask to an image, you essentially clip the one layer to the bottom layer. Okay, so if I had a big black square and an image above it, the image would be clipped only to the bounds of that black square. We can do that with CSS. Let me find my mask sample. And once again, we're going to add an image. And we're just going to send it to that same Envato image. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and load this in the page. So, masks.html, and we just have our one image. And let's start with the image, and we're going to do WebKit mask box image. And here we can actually pass in a URL that will serve to be the mask. So I haven't created one yet. Let's do it really quickly. Let's open up Photoshop, and I'm just going to build a black mask. So let's create a new file. 300 by 300 is fine. And let's create something fun, like maybe something like this. Maybe not practical, but who cares? Let's add that. Okay. And it's black, and I want to make sure that it's over a transparent background. I'm going to save for the web, and I'm going to save it as a 24-bit transparency. And let's save it within the desktop, websites, CSS3 effects, images, and I'm just going to call it mask. Okay? And the URL is going to be img/mask.png. Okay, and let's set the opacity to 0.2. And then, when the user hovers over the image, we are going to do WebKit transition, and we're going to transition the opacity over the course of 1 second, and we'll do linear. And we're going to set the opacity back to 1. So, let's go to Safari, refresh the page, and now you can see it's been masked to that image. And this is just a little extra feature that I showed you, is that when you hover over it, the opacity fades in. You don't have to do that with a JavaScript or a JavaScript library. So that's pretty neat, because you can substitute that out for another image, like, for example, NetTuts. Give it just a moment for that to load. Come on, come on, come on. Okay, well, I'm not going to worry about this, but basically you can substitute this out for any image, and all images will be clipped to this mask. You might do a circle or something like that, and if we want to actually view the image, you'll see that it's actually just the standard square image being clipped. Pretty neat. Additionally, we made a transition with the opacity. So in its standard state, the opacity is at 0.2. But when we hover over the image, we're going to change the opacity over the course of 1 second, and we're going to bring it up to 1. And what's triggering that animation is the hovering. So, refresh again. It's a really neat feature. And I just want to show you how we can change out the mask. Let's add a new one. Let's do a heart. This is pretty corny, so don't use this on your own website. And naturally, we'd probably want to crop it down. Feel free to fast forward if you want. Save that once again, and I'm going to save it over the mask. Replace, refresh the page, and now the heart is our mask. Pretty cool. Okay, I only want to show you 2 more before we're done for the day. I'm going to create a new file, and this one's going to be a rotation. This is going to show some more ways we can scale and rotate things. So we're going to do, the first one is going to be useless rotate, and this is going to be PHP because we're going to add a little of it. But don't worry if you don't do PHP, it's not really necessary. Okay, the first thing we want to do here is just have something to work with. This is just for example. I don't know ever when you'd use this, but it's kind of fun. Let's do echo file, get contents, and we're going to get my site. Please don't ever do this. So basically we're just grabbing the NetTouch site and we're going to echo it out. So come back and to Safari. This will work on anything, of course. Useless rotation.php. Is that not it? Useless rotate. Okay, so this is our site. This is bringing in our image. Now we're going to take this whole site and rotate it X degrees, just to see if we can. Style, we're going to do header. This is based on the file that we got, the NetTouch site. We're going to change the logo, and we're just going to flip it upside down. So let's do header, ing, and that image has a class of logo. So if we can find it. Where is it? There it is. This image has a class of logo. So what we want to do here is we're going to do WebKit, transform, and we're going to rotate that image exactly 180 degrees. Flips logo. Okay, so let's come back to Firefox. It's not going to work in Firefox, but let's go to Safari, paste that in. Give that just a moment to load, and look at that. The image has completely been flipped. And the way we are doing that is by using WebKit Transform, and we're rotating it 180 degrees. If you want, you can also do a negative value, but you need to make sure that you append DEG for degree. Okay, so it's kind of useless, but that's kind of a neat little effect right there. Let's create a new file, and we're going to do simple, rotate, and scale. So the first thing I want to do is add a div, and we're going to give it a class pulse, and let's just add a paragraph tag, and we're going to say welcome to NetTouch. Okay, so this is called simple rotate scale. Lots of stuff to show you. Simple rotate scale.html. And of course, I can't go to it through this URL. Give me just a moment to get this back. Simple rotate scale. What? Simple rotate. Oh, shoot, it's called PHP. We don't need that. Okay. Save it. Come back. And there we go. So I'm going to bring this over to Safari. And now let's begin working. Within our style, we're going to begin by doing, this is a little bit more advanced. We're going to do, let me think the best way to show you. Let's do Apple @ WebKit keyframes. And we're going to be adding specific keyframes. And next we're going to give this, this set a name. It can be anything we want. I'm going to call it Pulse. But if you wanted, you could call it Joe. But we'll do Pulse. And we're going to begin by doing from. Where are we going to begin? And from, we're going to do WebKit transform. And this is where you can do some pretty neat stuff. So let's just rotate it. I'm just going to keep it 0 here. And let's do 2. And what we'll do is WebKit. Now I'm going to do this the longhand version. So we're going to do WebKit transform, rotate. And we're going to, when it completes, we're going to rotate it 20 degrees, and we're also going to scale it. WebKit transform, scale, and we're going to scale it 200%. We could do it like this, or we can do it the shorthand. WebKit transform, and we're going to do rotate 20 degrees, and then just a space and scale 2. And we can just add those on as many times as we want. Okay, so next we need to actually attach that. So we're going to do Pulse, and we're going to do WebKit animation, And this time, what type of animation it is? Well, we're going to reference the pulse animation that we've just set up. The next one is going to be how long will it take? 4 seconds. The next one is going to be the direction. I'm going to show you that a little better in a second. And the final one is the iteration count. How many times will it occur? So let's save that. And that should be good. We need to add just a little bit of styling to this pulse div that's irrelevant. So we'll do width. And once again, you can fast forward if you want. Height of 100 pixels. Let's give it a background of green just to see something. Position to relative, once again, if we're going to affect any of those values. Let's set a margin of 400 pixel auto 0. Line height 100 pixels, and that's going to vertically center that text within the div box. And text align, we're going to push it into the center of the div. And the font family. So there we go. I'm putting it all in one line here because you can just pick this up and delete it. The only thing that's really important is that. So come back, refresh the page. And of course, we need to actually close our closing bracket. Okay, let's come back and refresh it. And now, look what we get. And that's all CSS3. So what I'll do is come back here, and I had this a little bit higher because I was on a larger resolution, so let's refresh the page. And look at that. It's rotating, it's scaling, and it's animating. Now, if you come back to Firefox, you're not going to see anything, actually. You just have your box. So let's take a look at this. We begin. We're not going to really do anything at the beginning, but we're going to move. We're going to transform it, and we're going to rotate this thing 20 degrees, and we're going to scale it by 200%. So if you wanted to do something like 180 degrees, refresh the page, look at that. Goes all the way around. 1. This is the iteration count. And the next one, 2. So if we come back, let's do this the longhand way now. Let's do it the pulse div right here. I'm going to comment this out, and we'll do it the longhand version way. So WebKit, animation, name. It's going to be pulse. Once again, that's an arbitrary name that I made up. WebKit, animation, copy that. The duration, this might bring a little more clarity. It's going to occur over 4 seconds. The next one is going to be the direction, is alternate, and that'll make it so when it goes one way, it'll smoothly go back the other way. And we'll experiment with removing that in just a second. Iteration count, and we're going to do it 2 times. So let's take these and remove them, come back to Safari and refresh and see what happens this time. So it goes over 1 for the iteration count, and it snaps back. So to get rid of that, if we want it to be a smooth, we want to take the direction and make it alternate, and then the iteration count is going to occur 2 times. So if we want to do it to 4, refresh the page, we have 1, 2, and then it's going to occur again. And I won't make you watch that. So pretty neat. We're doing this all with CSS. And the final one is, let's even take it a little bit further to have more control. And this is the last thing I'm going to show you today. Advanced, rotate, scale, HTML. Sorry you have to watch this so many times. And let me find my sample. Okay, let's begin. Once again, we're going to grab that image. So, image source. Okay, and within here, we are going to have the same thing. @ WebKit, keyframes. Remember, these are the number. You can have as many keyframes as you want here. And once again, we're going to call it pulse. Okay, the first one, rather than using from and to, we can actually specify percentages. So we'll do 0%, something we want to occur at 0%. And here, I don't really want to do anything just yet, but let's do 50%. Once again, these values are pretty arbitrary. You can do 10%, 20, as many as you want. WebKit, transform, and we're going to rotate it. This time we're going to rotate it negative 180 degrees, which is pretty much going to be the same as 180, but in the opposite direction. And let's also scale it by 500%. Okay? The next one is, let's do 100%. Just keep in mind, you can, as I said before, you can do as many as you like. And we'll do WebKit, transform, and this time we're going to rotate it -300. We're going to do a full rotation, and we're going to bring the scale down to 2.5. And you know what, that's fine for this. So let's just trigger it. So our pulse div, and I guess I don't have that here yet, do I? That's from another example. Div class equals pulse. Sorry about that. I'm trying to go so fast so I don't take up too much of your day. So now our pulse div, let's go ahead and set up WebKit animation. It's going to be the pulse type. It's going to occur over 4 seconds, and we are going to alternate it, and we'll just do it an iteration count of 2 times. Only other thing I want to do here is I refuse to type in all of that stuff again, so let's do, where is it? Rotate scale. Just copy all of that and bring it in. Okay, so let's come back to Safari, and this time it's called Advanced Rotate Scale, and now we have much more control over what we were doing here. And as I said before, you can add 20%, 40, 60, 80, 100, and this is all with CSS. So, granted, this is probably not very practical, but you can imagine, I've seen samples with maybe navigation items where when you hover over one of the items in a navigation, it kind of pops out just a little bit. It increases slightly when you hover, and then when you hover off, it goes back to its place. Now you need to remember, when we call these animations, we aren't affecting the flow of the document. We aren't affecting, it's the equivalent of being positioned. So if we set the position of an element to 500 pixels, we're shifting at 500 pixels, but that's not affecting any of the other elements. It still retains its same spot in the flow of the document. So we've done a lot of stuff, but that's what I wanted to show you guys today, a crash course in some of these fun CSS3 effects that you can use right now for iPhone development, and you can use in Safari 4. It's not going to work in older browsers, as I mentioned, but I think you should still play around with it, see what is possible, because I'm fairly sure that this is something we will be doing in the future. Additionally, a great debate is this something we want? Do we want to be animating and have all these transformations with CSS, or should that be JavaScript? And everyone kind of splits down the middle. I can see it both ways, so I'm really right in the middle of that discussion, but I'd love to talk to you guys about it in the comments. And as always, thank you so much for watching the Net.Touch Plus screencast of the week. And as I mentioned, if you do enjoy these videos, I put a lot of time into them, please take a moment to go to thenetawards.com and vote for us as Blog of the Year for Touch Plus, and Vodcast of the Year for NetTouch. And also take a look and vote for some of these other people's too. Web Application of the Year, I haven't done that. I'm a big fan of maybe Mint. Actually, I might give that one to Mint. So I'll go ahead and vote. Thanks a lot, guys. I will see you next week with Code Igniter from Scratch, Day 5.